Christopher Johnson woke up feeling like his head was stuffed with cotton wool. The morning sun streaming through the curtains of his bedroom in their lucky home felt too bright, and his mouth tasted like he had been chewing on old newspapers. But what really confused him was the warm body pressed against his back. "What the?" he mumbled, trying to turn around, but something heavy and metallic yanked his right hand back with a loud clank. "Ow!" came a feminine voice from behind him. Christopher's eyes flew open completely. That was Nora's voice, his wife's voice. The wife he was supposed to divorce today. The wife he hadn't shared a bed with in over 2 years. "Nora, what are you doing in my bed?" he asked, his voice still groggy. "Your bed." Nora's voice was sharp, even through her own grogginess. "This is our bed, Christopher. The question is, what are you doing here?" They both tried to sit up at the same time, and that's when they discovered the real problem. A heavy metal chain connected Christopher's right wrist to Nora's left wrist with what looked like professional handcuffs on both ends. "What the hell is this?" Christopher shouted, yanking his hand and making Nora yelp. "Stop pulling. You're hurting me," Nora snapped, examining the handcuffs. "Christopher, why are we chained together?" "How should I know? I'm just as confused as you are." They both looked around the room and froze. The bedroom looked like something out of an Hollywood romantic movie. Rose petals were scattered everywhere. Dozens of candles had burned down to waxy puddles, and family photos were arranged around the room like some kind of shrine. "What kind of juju is this?" Nora whispered, her eyes wide. "This has to be some kind of joke," Christopher said, tugging at the handcuffs again. "These things are real. Where did they even come from?" "Rose!" Nora suddenly screamed at the top of her lungs. "Mama, Rose, get in here right now." From outside the locked bedroom door came the sound of muffled giggling and what sounded suspiciously like someone saying, "SH." "Did you hear that?" Christopher asked. "Rose, open this door," Nora yelled again. This time, they clearly heard 3 young voices whispering urgently, followed by the sound of footsteps running away. The triplets, Christopher and Nora said at the same time, then glared at each other. "Your children have lost their minds," Nora said accusingly. "My children? They're our children." "Well, your mother-in-law has clearly corrupted them." "Rose, my mother-in-law. She's your grandmother. Same difference." Christopher tried to stand up, forgetting about the chain, and immediately pulled Nora off the bed. She crashed into him, and they both tumbled to the floor in a tangle of limbs and metal. "Get off me." Nora pushed against his chest. "I'm trying." "Stop moving. Stop telling me what to do." "Rose," they both screamed together. The black Toyota Camry pulled up to the imposing gates of the Johnson family mansion in Lekki Phase 1. Mr. Out of Bio. The family driver, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, turned around to face the 3 excited 8-year-olds in the back seat. "We are home, children," he announced with a warm smile. "I hope you enjoyed your time with great-grandma." 3 excited 8-year-olds stumbled out of the car like puppies, their voices overlapping in a symphony of chatter. "I can't wait to tell Mommy about great-grandmama's talking parrot," squealed Grace. The only girl among the triplets, her cornrow braids bouncing as she gathered her backpack. "That parrot doesn't talk, Grace. It just makes noise," scoffed Daniel, the self-proclaimed genius of the 3, pushing his glasses up his nose. Great-grandmama was just pretending to understand it. "Well, I'm going to tell Daddy about how great-grandmama taught me to catch fish with my bare hands in the stream," declared Samuel, the most adventurous one, flexing his skinny arms. "You didn't catch any fish, Sam. You caught a plastic bag and thought it was a catfish." Grace giggled, making her brothers burst into laughter. "Thank you, Uncle Adebayo." They chorused to the driver in unison, dragging their bags toward the house. They had spent 2 weeks with their great-grandmama Rose in her village in Ogun State during the midterm break. And their heads were full of her wild stories, delicious pounded yam, and the kind of freedom only available in the village where children could run around without shoes and climb mango trees all day. "Mommy, Daddy, we are back," they shouted as they burst through the front gate, racing toward the house. But instead of their mother rushing out to smother them with hugs and their father appearing with his usual jokes about how much taller they'd grown in 2 weeks, they found the house strangely quiet. "Why is everywhere so silent?" Grace asked, her excitement dimming. Daniel pushed his glasses up again, looking around suspiciously. "Maybe they're planning a surprise welcome party, or maybe armed robbers came and tied them up," Samuel whispered dramatically, making spooky gestures with his hands. "Don't be stupid, Sam. If there were armed robbers, the gateman would have told Uncle Adebayo." Grace rolled her eyes. They dragged their bags up the steps to the front door, the wheels making an awful scratching sound on the concrete. Usually, by now, their mother would have rushed out with her warm smile, asking a million questions about great-grandmama's cooking and whether they had been good children. Their father would be making jokes about how they look like village children now and pretending to inspect them for mud and insects. But today, nothing. "Mommy," Grace called out as they entered the living room. "We're in here," came a soft, sad voice. The triplets found their parents sitting on opposite ends of their large leather sectional sofa, looking like they were attending a funeral. Their mother, Nora's eyes were red and swollen. And their father, Christopher, was staring at his hands like they contained the secrets of the universe. "Welcome back, my darlings," Nora said, trying to smile, but failing spectacularly. "Mommy, why do you look like you've been crying? Did somebody die?" Samuel asked with his usual lack of filter, plopping down between his parents. "And why is Daddy sitting so far away? Normally, you people are always sitting together watching those boring news programs," Grace added, her detective instinct kicking in. Daniel remained standing, his arms crossed. "Something is wrong. You both look like you swallowed bitter cola." Christopher cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Children, sit down. Your mother and I need to discuss something very important with you." The way he said it, so formal and serious, made all 3 children freeze. This wasn't their father, who usually greeted them by lifting them up and asking if they had brought him any village chickens. "Are we in trouble?" Grace asked nervously. "Because if it's about great-grandmama's broken television, Samuel did it." "I did not. You pushed me into it. You were trying to dance like those Afrobeats videos." "Children," Christopher interrupted, his voice unusually gentle. "You're not in trouble. This has nothing to do with you." "Then what's wrong?" Daniel demanded, pushing his glasses up frantically. "And don't say nothing because we're not babies." Nora took a shaky breath. "Your father and I, while you were away, we had some serious conversations and we've made a very difficult decision." "What kind of decision?" Samuel asked, suddenly looking worried. "Are we moving to America?" Grace's eyes went wide. "Please don't tell me we're moving to America," great-grandmama said. "People in America eat only bread and they don't know how to make proper gel rice." "We're not moving anywhere," Christopher said, then paused awkwardly. "Well, not all of us together." The triplets looked at each other confused. "Just tell us." Daniel exploded. "This suspense is making my head hurt." Christopher and Nora exchanged a look across the sofa, having some kind of silent conversation with their eyes that the children couldn't understand. Finally, Christopher spoke the words that would change everything. "Children, your mother and I have decided to get a divorce." The announcement hit the room like a Nollywood movie bomb. The triplets sat in stunned silence for exactly 2 seconds before chaos erupted. "What?" All 3 screamed at the same time, their voices echoing off the walls. "Divorce." Grace jumped up, her hands on her hips like a tiny lawyer. "What does that even mean?" "It means they don't want to be married anymore," Daniel explained, his voice cracking. I've seen it in films. But why? Samuel's eyes filled with tears. Don't you love each other anymore? It's complicated, my darlings, Christopher started, using that adult phrase that children hate. Everything is always complicated with grown-ups. Grace threw her hands up in the air like she was conducting an orchestra of frustration. Why can't you just fix it like you tell us to fix our problems? We tried, sweetheart, Nora said softly, her own voice wobbling. But sometimes when two people can't get along anymore, it's better for everyone if they live in different houses. Different houses. Samuel's voice went up so high it sounded like a whistle. But we don't want to live in different houses. We want to live together like a real family. You will still be a real family. Christopher tried to explain. You just spend some days with mommy and some days with daddy. Like a football match. Daniel asked sarcastically. Pass the children back and forth. It's not like that. Yes, it is. Grace stamped her foot so hard the floor shook. We want a complete family like Tommy's family and Sarah's family and all the families in great-grandmama's stories. Sometimes families change shape, my love, Nora tried to explain, but her voice was shaking. I don't want our family to change shape, Samuel wailed. I like our family the shape it is right now. Daniel had been quiet, processing everything with his serious 8-year-old brain. Finally, he spoke up with a question that made both parents freeze. Is there someone else? What do you mean? Christopher asked, looking shocked. Great-grandmama watches those Telemundo shows on DSTV. I know about these things. Daddy, do you have a girlfriend? The uncomfortable silence that followed was louder than any answer. You do. Grace gasped, pointing at her father like a prosecutor in court. Daddy, you have a girlfriend. It's not that simple, Christopher began. It is that simple, Samuel interrupted. Either you do or you don't. Great-grandmama says adults like to make simple things complicated. Children, please, Nora pleaded. Tears starting to flow down her cheeks. This is already hard enough. Hard for who? Grace demanded, her voice rising. Hard for you. You're the grown-ups. You get to make all the decisions. We're just supposed to bounce around like tennis balls. I hate tennis, Samuel announced dramatically, crossing his tiny arms. The room fell silent, except for the sound of the air conditioner humming and Nora sniffling. The grandfather clock in the corner ticked loudly, each tick feeling like a countdown to the end of their family. Finally, Grace spoke up, her voice determined and fierce. When is this divorce happening? Next week, Christopher answered quietly. We have a court appointment. Grace looked at her brothers. Daniel was furiously thinking, his forehead wrinkled like an old man's. Samuel was trying not to cry, but failing. Next week. Grace repeated slowly. That gives us 7 days. 7 days for what? Nora asked. Grace stood up like a general, addressing her troops. 7 days to stop this foolish divorce and fix our family. Grace, darling, it's not that easy. Adults always say things aren't easy when they don't want to work hard enough. Grace interrupted, sounding exactly like great-grandmama Rose. Daniel, Samuel, emergency triplet meeting now. The 3 children marched out of the living room with military precision, leaving their stunned parents behind. Did we just get dismissed by an 8-year-old? Christopher asked weakly. I think we did, Nora replied. And for the first time in months, she almost smiled. While the triplets were upstairs holding their emergency meeting, Christopher quietly slipped into his study and pulled out his phone. He scrolled through his contacts until he found the name that made his heart race. Jessica. Hello, baby, he said in a low voice when she picked up. Yes, it's done. I told them about the divorce today. Across the house, Daniel had positioned himself at the top of the stairs, and his excellent hearing caught every word his father said. The kids took it badly, but that was expected, Christopher continued. Don't worry, my love. Soon we'll be free to be together properly. No more hiding. No more sneaking around. Daniel's eyes went wide behind his glasses. He crept closer to hear more. The court date is next Monday. Once the papers are signed, I'll be a free man. We can finally go on that trip to Dubai you've been talking about. Just you and me. No complications. Daniel had had enough. He tiptoed back to Grace's room where his siblings were plotting. Meanwhile, across the hallway in the master bedroom, Nora sat on her bed, staring at old photo albums. Her heart felt like it had been put through a blender. She didn't want this divorce, but Christopher had made it clear that he had found love elsewhere. She thought back to how it all started 11 years ago at the University of Lagos. She was studying economics. He was studying law. They met at a party thrown by their mutual friends. You're the most beautiful girl at this party. 22-year-old Christopher had said, slightly drunk on the star beer and youthful confidence. You're just saying that because you've had too much to drink, she had laughed. I'm saying it because it's true. Dance with me. One dance led to another, and before she knew it, they were kissing in his dorm room. One thing led to another, and 9 months later, she was giving birth to triplets. Both families had been scandalized. How could you be so careless? Her mother had screamed. What will people say? What will the church say? Christopher's family wasn't much better. You've ruined your future, his father had shouted. All your plans, your career, everything. But great-grandmama Rose had saved the day as she always did. What's done is done, she had declared in her booming voice. The girl is pregnant with triplets. The boy is responsible. They are both from good families. They will get married and raise these children properly. And so they did. Christopher had been sweet at first, genuinely trying to make their first marriage work. He would bring her flowers, rub her swollen feet when she was pregnant, and talk excitedly about their future children. We'll be the best parents, he used to say. Our children will never doubt that they are loved. For the first few years after the triplets were born, things were good. Christopher was an attentive father and a caring husband. He would wake up at night to help with feedings, change diapers without complaining, and make her laugh when she was exhausted. But somewhere around the triplets' FTH birthday, things began to change. Christopher started working longer hours, coming home later, and seeming distant. At first, Nora thought it was just stress from his growing law practice. Then came Jessica. This is my new assistant. Christopher had introduced her at the farm's Christmas party 3 years ago. She's very efficient. Jessica was everything Nora wasn't. Young, single, childless, and able to focus all her attention on one man. She had long weaves, perfectly done nails, and clothes that didn't have baby food stains or crayon marks. Nora had tried to compete at first. She bought new clothes, did her hair more often, and tried to be the perfect wife. But how could she compete with someone who could give Christopher all her time and attention while Nora was busy raising 3 demanding children? The final blow came 6 months ago when she decided to surprise Christopher at his office with lunch. She found him and Jessica in what appeared to be a very intimate conversation, sitting much closer than was professional. Jessica's hand was on Christopher's arm, and they were both laughing like they shared private jokes. When Christopher saw Nora, he didn't even look guilty. He just looked annoyed. "What are you doing here?" he had asked coldly. "I brought you lunch," she said weakly, holding up the container of jollof rice she had made specially for him. "I already ate. Jessica and I ordered Chinese food." That was the moment Nora's heart finally broke completely. She realized she had been fighting for a man who didn't want to be fought for. Now sitting on their bed, she wiped away fresh tears. Tomorrow she would be free from this one-sided marriage. Tomorrow she could stop pretending that everything was fine. Tomorrow she could start over. She didn't know that across the hall, Christopher was making very different plans for tomorrow. And she definitely didn't know that upstairs, 3 very determined 8-year-olds were plotting to make sure tomorrow never came. In Grace's pink bedroom, the triplets had arranged themselves in a serious circle on the floor. Grace had even lit one of her birthday candles to make it feel more official, though Daniel kept worrying they would burn the house down. "Okay, soldiers," Grace announced, trying to sound like the army generals in Nollywood movies. "We have a crisis situation. Our parents have completely lost their minds. Totally lost them." Samoa agreed, nodding vigorously. "Like when I lost my favorite football and it turned up in the washing machine." "You put it there yourself, you coconut head," Daniel pointed out. "Focus." Grace clapped her hands. "We have 7 days to save our family. But first, Daniel, report what you heard Daddy saying on the phone." Daniel pushed his glasses up nervously. He was talking to his girlfriend. "Her name is Jessica. He told her the divorce would be final next Monday and then they can go to Dubai together." "Dubai?" Samoa gasped. "But I want to go to Dubai. They have the tallest building in the world there." "This is not about Dubai, Sam." Grace snapped. "This is about our family falling apart." "What else did he say, Daniel?" "He said, no more hiding. No more sneaking around." He sounded happy. Daniel's voice was small and hurt. Grace's face went red with anger. "Happy? Our daddy is happy about leaving us." "He's not leaving us." Daniel tried to explain. "He's leaving Mommy. We'll still see him on weekends and holidays." "That's not the same thing." Grace stood up and started pacing around the small room. "We need our family together all the time, not on a schedule like we're library books." "So, what do we do?" Samoa asked, looking between his siblings. Grace stopped pacing and looked at her brothers with determination. "We call the one person who can fix this mess." "Who?" Daniel and Samoa asked together. "Great-grandmama Rose." "Yes." Samoa jumped up excitedly. "Great-grandma Rose doesn't play. Remember when she made that NEPA official turn our electricity back on by bringing him homemade pounded yam and threatening to faint in his house? And when she convinced that mechanic to fix our generator properly by lecturing him about honesty until he felt so guilty he gave Daddy a discount and bought us malt?" Daniel grinned, remembering the story. "And when she caught that trader at Mile 12 Market trying to sell her rotten tomatoes and she made him give her fresh ones plus extra peppers for free." Grace added. They all looked at each other as the same idea hit them. "If anyone can stop this divorce, it's Great-grandmama Rose," they declared together. Grace grabbed her pink phone and dialed the number they all knew by heart. After 3 rings, a powerful voice filled the room. "Rose Johnson speaking. If this is MTN trying to sell me another data plan, I already told you people. I don't need more internet." "Great-grandmama. It's us." Grace shouted into the phone. "My precious triplets, are you calling to tell me you missed my pepper soup already?" "Great-grandmama, we have a big emergency," Samoa said, grabbing the phone. "Mommy and Daddy want to get a divorce." There was complete silence on the other end. "Then they want to do what?" The phone was so loud that all 3 children jumped back and even their neighbor's dog started barking. "A divorce, Great-grandmama," Daniel said carefully. "They told us today when we came back from your house over my dead body." Great-grandmama Rose's voice boomed so loudly they could probably hear her in Abuja. "After 10 years of marriage, after giving me 3 beautiful great-grandchildren. What kind of nonsense is this?" "We don't know," Grace said sadly. "They said it's complicated." "Complicated? My foot." Everything is complicated until you decide to fix it properly. Who is the other woman? The triplets looked at each other in amazement. How did you know there was another woman, child? I have been alive for 78 years. I can smell a cheating man from 3 local government areas away. What's her name? Jessica. Daniel said quietly. She's Daddy's assistant at the law firm. Jessica. Great-grandmama. Rose nodded so loudly it sounded like a cow. Of course, it's Jessica. It's always Jessica or Chioma or some girl with a name that sounds like a soap opera character. Well, this Jessica is about to learn that she picked the wrong family to mess with. What are you going to do, great-grandmama? Samoa asked excitedly. First, I'm coming to Lagos tonight. Second, we're going to remind your foolish father why he married your mother in the first place. Third, we're going to make Miss Jessica understand that stealing another woman's husband is a very bad idea. How? Grace asked, fascinated. Leave that to great-grandmama Rose, my dear. I didn't survive independence, 3 military coups, and the introduction of GSM by being gentle with home records. Now, listen carefully. You children must not let your parents sign any papers until I get there. Can you do that? Yes, great-grandmama. Good. And act normal around them. Don't let them know we're planning anything. Can you do that too? We'll try, Daniel said doubtfully. Don't try, do. I should be there by tomorrow evening. Pack your thinking caps, children. We have a family to save. After they hung up, the triplets looked at each other with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Do you think she can really stop the divorce? Samoa asked. If anyone can, it's great-grandmama Rose, Grace declared. Remember when that rude woman at the bank tried to tell her the queue was too long and she should come back tomorrow? So great-grandmama sat down and refused to move until they served her. And when our neighbor's generator was too loud at night, so she went over there with a pot of soup and convinced them to move it to the back of their compound. Daniel added, she's like a superhero but with gray hair and really strong opinions about everything. Samoa concluded. Exactly. Now, let's go downstairs and pretend like we're not planning anything, Grace commanded. We have a family to save, and great-grandmama Rose is coming to help us do it. As they headed downstairs, they could hear their parents talking in low, sad voices in the living room. But instead of feeling hopeless, the triplets felt excited. Great-grandmama Rose was coming. And when great-grandmama Rose came to fix something, it stayed fixed. This is going to be the best rescue mission ever. Samoa whispered to his siblings. The greatest Lagos family rescue mission in history, Grace agreed. They had no idea just how right they were going to be. The next evening, the Johnson house was buzzing with nervous energy. The triplets had spent the day being suspiciously well behaved, which made their parents even more worried than they already were. They're being too good, Nora whispered to Christopher as they watched the children quietly doing homework at the dining table. When have our children ever done homework without being threatened? Maybe they're just processing everything, Christopher suggested. But he looked concerned, too. Our children don't process anything quietly. Remember when Samoa found out that wrestling was fake? He held a protest in the front yard for 2 days. And when Grace learned that Santa Claus wasn't real, she wrote a letter to the children's church pastor about false advertising to children. Christopher added, and Daniel once created a PowerPoint presentation about why bedtime is unconstitutional. They both stared at the triplets who were sitting together whispering and giggling quietly. This is definitely suspicious, Christopher agreed. What their parents didn't know was that the triplets were stationed by the front window, taking turns watching for great-grandmama Rose's arrival. Any sign of her? Grace whispered. Daniel pressed his nose against the glass. Not yet, but wait. I see a taxi coming down our street. Is it stopping? Samoa asked excitedly. Yes, it's stopping right in front of our gate. All three children watched as the taxi door opened and out stepped Great-Grandmama Rose in all her magnificent glory. She was wearing a bright green gel that was so large it looked like she was carrying a small tent on her head, a matching green dress with gold trim and enough jewelry to open a small boutique. She paid the taxi driver, grabbed 2 enormous Ghana bags, and marched toward their gate like a general leading an army into battle. She's here. Grace squealed quietly. Look at all that luggage. Daniel marveled. She's planning to stay until she fixes everything, Samoa declared confidently. Ding dong. The doorbell rang with such authority that it seemed to shake the whole house. I get it. All three children yelled at once, racing to the door. They threw it open to reveal Great-Grandmama Rose, hands on her hips, looking like she had just stepped out of a Mollywood movie about powerful women who don't take nonsense from anyone. My beautiful great-grandchildren, she announced loudly enough for the neighbors in the next compound to hear. Great-Grandmama Rose has arrived to restore sense to this senseless situation. Great-Grandmama. They threw themselves at her in a group hug. Now, where are those 2 foolish children of mine who think they can just throw away a perfectly good marriage like it's yesterday's newspaper? Great-Grandmama Rose. Nora appeared in the hallway looking shocked. What are you doing here? We didn't know you were coming. Of course you didn't know I was coming. If people knew I was coming every time there was trouble to fix, there would be no element of surprise. Where is Christopher? Christopher appeared behind Nora, looking equally confused. Mama Rose, is everything okay? Why do you have so much luggage? Great-Grandmama Rose removed her large sunglasses dramatically and fixed both parents with a look that could have stopped traffic on 3rd Mainland Bridge. Sit down, both of you, right now, Great-Grandmama, Christopher started. Did I stutter? I said, sit down. Her voice was so commanding that both adults immediately sat on the nearest chairs like children who had been caught stealing meat from the pot. Great-Grandma Rose positioned herself in front of them, still wearing her enormous jelly. The triplets gathered around like they were watching the best Nollywood drama ever made. So, she began, pointing a perfectly manicured finger at them. I hear you two have completely lost your minds and decided to get a divorce. Mama Rose, it's complicated, Nora began. Stop right there. Great-Grandmama Rose held up her hand like a traffic warden. Every time someone says it's complicated, what they really mean is I don't want to work hard enough to make it simple. Christopher, look me in the eye and tell me the truth. Are you cheating on my granddaughter-in-law? Christopher's face turned red like he had been caught stealing from the offering box at church. Mama Rose. I don't think that's not an answer. Yes or no? The room was so quiet you could hear the neighbors watching TV next door. The triplets held their breath. Yes. Christopher finally whispered, looking like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Oh. Great-Grandmama Rose pointed at him like a prosecutor who had just solved a murder case. And let me guess, it's your secretary. How did you, child, please? I have watched every season of Tinsel and every Nollywood movie ever made. Secretaries are always trouble. What's her name? I don't see how that's her name. Christopher. Don't make me ask again. Jessica, he mumbled like a child, admitting he broke something expensive. Jessica. Great-Grandmama Rose threw her hands up so dramatically that her gail shifted slightly. Of course, it's Jessica. It's always Jessica or some other girl with a name that sounds like she should be selling perfume in a magazine. Well, this Jessica is about to learn that she picked the wrong Legos family to mess with. Grace whispered to her brothers. This is better than Africa magic. Shoo, Daniel hissed back. Great-Grandmama Rose turned to Nora. And you, my dear, sweet foolish granddaughter-in-law. You're just going to let some secretary steal your husband without a fight. Mama Rose, he doesn't love me anymore. He wants to be with her. Nonsense. Men don't know what they want half the time. That's why God gave them wives to tell them. Christopher, do you love this, Jessica? Christopher looked confused by the direct question. I think so. You think so? Great-Grandma Rose's voice went up so high that dogs probably started howling in Victoria Island.